back to the show, everybody. Our guest this evening has probably the longest biography that I've ever read out on the show. He is a Texan, originally hailing from Dallas. He's a track and field star. He's a media group founder. He's a frontman of a chart-topping band, a television pundit, and oh, by the way, his company Rippaverse is coming out back-to-back multi-million-dollar campaigns for his flagship comic ISOM. So we're going to ask him to subscribe to our Patreon. He's an astronaut. He's got his own fragrance. Eric July, welcome back to the show.
What's up? What's up, man? It's good to be back chatting with you, man. I appreciate you so much for having me.
Well, Eric, as I'm sure you well know, we've had a chance to meet each other a couple times in real life where you can touch grass, and I think this is the first time I finally got you to get you on the show. I think I asked you on the show a couple of years ago, and it was, well, I'm getting ready to do this thing. I'm getting ready to do this big business thing. I can't talk about it yet. And I was like, oh, well, I'll just wait to hear that the news was. And it turns out the news was Rippaverse Comics. So I kind of want to start right there. How about them Cowboys?
40-0, huh?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I was not even anticipating that, man. That was kind of crazy to see. Maybe they're gonna be all right defensively. We'll see. We'll see though. They got to keep that up. It is Giants at the end of the day.
I mean, it is the Giants at the end of the day. I know. I think their defense is going to be good this year. I think the Eagles might take a half a step back, and the Cowboys might take half a step up. So we'll see.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think if the Cowboys don't make it all the way for the first time since I was in fourth grade, it'll be because of the guy under center.
Yes. And people that have followed me for years, I'm not the biggest fan of Dak, haven't ever been. And I do believe that there was a wrong move made, and the people are going to disagree with me on that hot take. It is what it is. Obviously Dak came in, great situation in terms of him coming in with Romo being injured. Romo was healthy at the end of that season, right?
Yes.
If you guys remember. And he threw, he had like some awesome drive, I think, in a game that didn't matter. That might have been the end of the season there. My position is that they should have thrown him in. I don't care how good they thought Dak was doing. They should have put him in. I think that was going to be their best chance to win a Super Bowl, and they might not ever get there again. But anything can happen. It is the NFL after all.
I will. I'm so glad you said that because I've been dragged for this before. I will die on the hill that in Romo's last year with the Cowboys, if at the end of the day you put your best players in to give you the best chance to win it all, and they were the number one seed that year,
Hmm?
you cannot look me in the face and tell me that Dak Prescott as like a rookie gives you a better chance to win the damn Super Bowl than Tony Romo. Come on.
Exactly, man. That's been my position there. I think that was a mistake that maybe people they certainly didn't understand it before when it happened, but I think people will grow to understand that may have been your best shot right there. I don't care how good the season had went. That was your best shot, and you neglected to put him in. You neglected to put him in because you thought that, hey, we're just riding a hot hand type of situation, and you thought you had something. And it's funny watching as of recent years, people kind of coming around to, Dak is what he is. I'm not saying that he's just absolute trash, but when it definitely comes to getting in like a shootout and, playoff football, I think any person that's looking at it rationally, I don't care how you feel about Romo. I think now you have to admit that he's probably better. Or let's say this, he's going to give you the best chance to win there.
All right. Well, now that we got our football out of our system, I'll come back around full circle. So I want to start right here with ISOM, with the flagship comic, with the character. I think a lot of people have kind of seen this whole thing unfold and been just blown away by the response. But I think a lot of people don't understand how much time and how much work has gone into this whole thing. So I want you to maybe like pick us up from the very, very beginning when you're sitting down with Lady Ripa and you said, hey, I got an idea. Let's mortgage everything we freaking got to print a comic book. What do you think?
Well, I mean, look, that's sort of what happened, and I think that people think that this type of thing happens overnight. There were a set of circumstances that, of course, had me benefit but all those circumstances were those of which I set up myself. So whether it be leveraging my own audience as the base kind of sort of foundation to at least get eyes on the product initially, that's something that I built since I was 16 years old. The YouTube following and following on this form of social media, that form of social media. And you've mentioned the things that I've been a part of, be it being libertarian, be it with Backwards, be it with Far From Gods, even from before then. Like, I've been around and I'd always delivered on every product it is that I'd ever produced. So with the Rippaverse, it was a set of circumstances, and a lot of it had to do with things that I had conceptualized this idea. I thought that this was something that I would be able to do eventually, but I didn't think I'd be able to do it until I was like well into my 40s. Something that I just something that I can do now, and that whole thing, or when I would be 40, but that changed. A couple of different things happened. One of which you see the just downward trend that I think
Mhm.
comics, mainstream comics, American comics went. So you had that happening as well. And then I saw the sort of success, I had the success it is that I had. So combined with that, I'm looking at it like, well, is there ever going to be a better time? It's funny. We're just talking about football and we talk about, taking advantage of this opportunity. That's exactly what I had to do. So I had all this money saved up and I said, you know what? I'm going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make this happen because I don't think I'm going to get a better time than what it is right now. I had the rapport built with my audience. I had proven that I had the knowledge base of the industry, and I had the money to make something happen and really put forth something that was going to be competitive and people were going to take serious. And I spent a year just doing the foundational work for the company, and for creatively, legal BS, all that, just taking took a lot of time and effort to do that, building my Bible and my Universe Bible. It just took a lot of time and effort, and then we put it out there, and it was like a leap of faith. It was like, all right, let's see what happens. If I make a little money, I'll be okay. Did I expect to make $3.7 million on the first campaign? 100% no. That was not on the cards. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. Did I think we could see success? Yes. Did I think we could be that successful? That was not anything that I had anticipated. But it did legitimize this company, and if that didn't, the second one did with another multi-million dollar campaign. But there's a lot of effort, work that went into it, and I didn't just like scoot into this situation or I was placed in this situation. It was something I had to earn, and I say this all the time. I'm working harder now than I ever have in my entire life. And I think that's something that, be it entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, and people that are in these situations, I don't think they or want to be in the situations like it is that I am in. They don't often understand that I work harder now than I ever have in my entire life. And I'm a man that values work, and it makes it easy to handle. But this ain't for everybody. And I am blessed, after all, to be in this situation. I'm very thankful for the customers it is that we have.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I don't want to get into like a whole big COVID lockdown economic thing. I want us to kind of have fun on tonight's show, but I would be remiss to point out the fact that when you see lots of small businesses suffer
Oh yeah.
because of things, especially I mean, it definitely sucks when it things outside of your own control, and shit happens, as they say. But and you look at the hundreds of thousands of businesses that close as a response to policies that are outside of their control. I think a lot of people, like people on the sideline, have this attitude of, well, whatever, it happens, it's life, just dust yourself off and try it again. And I'm not saying that there's not a little truth to that, but people who have never tried to go out on their own have any idea how much you pour of yourself into that. And if something like that were to happen to you, what a complete gut punch that it is.
Yeah, I mean, you put that perfectly, and most people don't understand. I mean, we saw that during not just that the COVID stuff, but with the summer of love as well. And you see people's response was very bizarre, and like, hey, they have insurance, and I know it's going to be all right. And it's like that's just not how it works. I mean, people put a lot of to do your own thing, be your own business, own your own business, and to be part of that sort of disconnected from a mega corporation. That is so difficult. And yeah, to your point, you put a lot into it, and when something like that happens, it just can destroy everything. And this is why I certainly feel for individuals that were going through what they went through during that period of time. And the Rippaverse just had me, gave me even more perspective. It's not the first business I've been a part of course, but one that's this successful. Yeah, and I discussed this not too long ago about how I even moved different than I had before because other people's livelihoods really depend. More people's livelihood depend on the success of the Rippaverse than had been before when it was just like me and a couple other people doing our thing. Now it's more, I got employees, man. And it's a perspective that I'm not saying I didn't have, but I have a lot more understanding of
Mm.
what it takes, and I'm very aware of that. And it's important that I'm aware of that in how I move and being calculated in how I move, because it's not just myself that I'm making a decision for, but that all goes back into the work as well. For the last month, I've been in the warehouse, working alongside the employees that are there, and I'm the first one there. Usually, I was the last person to leave, and they need to see that. They need to see the owner out there. I'm grinding. I'm There's nothing that I expect or ask of other people that I myself wouldn't do. And and like I say, that comes from just me having the background it is that I have, and valuing work. And that's something that I think, unfortunately, and I'm not just trying to be all the back in my day kind of guy. I think a lot of people my age and younger, they don't really understand that aspect of it. In fact, it's always this finesse culture where everybody feels like they want to work the absolute least, and that's not my vision there.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that goes to again to that whole entrepreneurial thing. Is that I know a lot of people closer to our generation, because I'm gonna throw myself in your generation, make myself
Yeah.
feel good. Is they in their world, they go to work, they clock in, they clock out, and their attitude is, I'm going to do the bare minimum because I don't own this place, right? I don't
Right.
own this desk or this cubicle. That ain't my product. I'm just logging hours and collecting a paycheck. I don't get paid enough. Woe is me. And look, don't be wrong. There's some crappy jobs out there, right? Like I
Absolutely.
I, I totally get it. And but you do those things because you're trying to get to the next level. You're trying to improve. But
Absolutely.
it takes a special kind of person to think that the next level is not up, it's out.
Oh yeah.
That's a
Oh yeah.
that's a totally different
and and,
mindset.
s- and sometimes that comes with even a pay cut in some cases. You know what I mean? When you do that, people laugh at people that are rich now that say they'd rather make a lot less doing things the way that they're able to do it, as opposed to I guess what people consider, or they the way they view working for a company. And to me, I just look at it like there's those that value work and there's those that don't. There's those that look that value it and what you get from it, not just financially, but what you get. For me, a lot of the work that I do is therapeutic. I work long hours, but it is therapeutic in a sense because I love what it is that I do. And not to go on too much of a tangent, you mentioned the stuff about having crappy jobs and all that. This is why I focus so much on remaining independent, because I do believe that there are issues, be it in the workforce, that I'm in a position to be able to correct, resolve, let's say that. And again, that type of stuff is something that you just can't have. You can't have happen if you don't work. By me working, for example, in the warehouse every day, I'm able to understand that perspective from other workers in that warehouse, and I can put them in a position to thrive, in a position to succeed, take care of them, and then that way, at least it's not my fault. It's not our fault in the event that someone's not, say, pulling their weight. Let's say that. So these are problems that I like to correct. But again, it all stems from work. And I know there's people that are out there that feel as if I am totally undeserving of the position it is that I am in. But I'm willing to bet a lot of money that none of them work nearly as hard as what I do. And they don't clock the hours like I do.
Yeah. Well, let's take a trip back real quick down memory lane. So specifically with Isom, now was just that character, that just kind of the birth of the whole universe that you're building, was that something that you were kicking around in your head for a long time, thinking that this is something I'd like to explore someday, but I'm busy, I got other stuff to do, I can't be a full-time writer, I can't be a full-time creative, or was that something that you really didn't take seriously until the business aspect?
No, for sure. It was something that I conceptualized. I just didn't put pen to paper and really flesh this thing out until I had said, and I made the decision to go do my own thing and create this bad boy. So, everything about this world and universe is calculated. ISOM being kind of the flagship and being the first character that it is that we created that with this universe and kind of launched it was purposeful. I mentioned this before about how even like his more simplistic design is by design, right? It wasn't anything that because you look at, for example, his design versus someone like Yaira or Bloodruth, which I created those characters as well. They're different. It's because of everything is calculated and how I do things. So I conceptualized it, and then I said, you know what, this is where it all starts, and everything's going to branch from there. So in building, he was the first entry. Isom was Avery Silman was the first entry of my Universe Bible. So I'm sitting writing everything down. I'm like, making sure people know who he is within the company, and I mean, building out everything, his family members, why he is what he is, and who he is. That way, we have a general direction of where we're going to take the character initially. And this was all stuff that before I'd even asked for an artist that I had fleshed out. Right, it was something that I had kicking around in my head, and I just took it really, really serious once it was time to take it really, really serious. But not just with him, really the entire company and how we do the stories and who the characters are. They're done. It's all by design. It's all by design. It's very calculated, and nothing's really random.
Well, I think that that's one part of the whole aspect that a lot of aspiring, whether it's musicians or writers or whatever it is, I think something that a lot of people run into is how to identify and work with the right people. And it seems like
Yeah.
you've partnered with some exceptional people that they're not just individually talented, and not to say that they're certainly individually talented, but everyone kind of has a similar vision. They're kind of seeing things through your eyes. So how important has that been, and how did you manage to pull that off? Because I think there's a lot of aspiring. I'm a musician myself, and I can't think of how many times I could tell you that, man, I love to go play this gig, but where am I going to find somebody for this, somebody for this? I need this gear, I need that. How did you manage to put that together?
That's a fantastic question, and I would say it was extremely vital. Everybody that I've had the luxury of working with so far, I get along with. Yes, it's varying degrees, but there's nobody here that I dislike, that I tolerate. That's not how it works. And I think that that's an easier thing to accomplish when you yourself know what your vision actually is. And, you can really communicate that with other people. So the first two folks outside of like internal, right? And that's the thing. Everybody I guess we could start there. The internal people that I had working within the company before we brought on artists were all folks that were either I knew personally, uh, or they were already part of my community in some way, shape, or form, and I just brought them on. So they already got it. This is something that's
Yeah.
very, very difficult to explain to people. If good luck. And I've tried. Trust me, it's difficult to try to explain like what we have going here to people that just haven't been around. So I started there, and I brought people that were like-minded, at least in that sense, that they kind of already knew where I was at, what the wavelength was, and the first creative work that we produced outside of my concept artist and Marcos, who again it was same thing, part of the community. But when the big names, Gabe El Taib and Cliff Richards, right, the artist and the colorist for the ISOM 1 and 2 and 3, you know, Gabe is him and I connect on a personal level because of we both have sports backgrounds. We both again we get along really well. We obviously see a lot of the cultural stuff, and he's just so easy to get along with there. And like there's a genuine like we're genuinely we're cool, right? And I just hanging out with him at San Diego Comic Con at his booth. Did some signings, and we're just shooting it like just regular dudes. And I think that people working under those conditions are able to produce their best work because they're invested. But it also was important, you bring up I bring up Cliff as well as Gabe. For me, this being my first big project for this company, that I needed to surround myself with experience. Okay. So, these are former Marvel, DC guys, Star Wars guys. These guys have done a lot of work over the years. And I knew that if I was doing something that they for sure were against it, they wouldn't have done it, and they would have told me rather, this is not a good idea. So I wanted to make sure that I surrounded myself with that type of talent. And as we grow, it's been that way as well. Having a guy like Chuck Dixon, who's up, that he'll be the next book, Alpha Core will be the next book that will come out. That's one of the most prolific writers, not just of our generation, of all time. And having someone like him be acting kind of as a mentor, this is very important. We're like minded, but it's very important that you have people like that on your team. So for me, it is a difficult thing because you got to vet everybody, right? That you're working with. You just because, hey, I like what you do. You're a good art. That's not good enough, right? For something
Mhm.
to click like this, it's not good enough. It's like these people have to be personable. We have to be on the same wavelength. It's not to say that we have to agree top to bottom on every single individual item. That's not what it is that we're saying. We at least get along. And I think that's what makes this thing so magical and why you see them, the Saskas as well. They're so invested into this company and they want it to thrive. And it almost, not almost, they do have skin in the game. And that's like that with the back office guys, employees, as well as the creative talent.
I'm going to hit you with one more before we take a commercial break. Now, you've said already in our conversation, talking about seeing what way the winds are blowing in Hollywood, in media, in the comic book industry, and thinking, all right, I've heard enough, I've read enough, I've seen enough. And you actually have this because I've looked at the Rippaverse ethics, code of ethics on your
Mm-hmm.
website, and you've got that in the very first paragraph. You say, you've got the dream, but the unfortunate state of the industry gave him the push that he needed to give it a shot. So I know this is a kind of a really broad question, but is there a single item? Is there a single piece of work or company or whatever that was for you was the straw that broke the camel's back? That when you saw that you said, "All right, that's it. I'm done. I can do better."
Well, I think it is okay. So if we take a step back with like what was going on in both really Marvel, like all new, all different era Marvel. So you're going into the middle of like the 2010s, and you start to see that there was this effort to change things that had already existed. That's not to say they're retconning, and a lot of people get this thing twisted. It's not to say retconning hadn't existed in stories past, but there was an actual effort to just say, hey, we know and recognize these are the characters that you guys understand and but we're trying to fundamentally change them and replace them, even. And, that's where things kind of started to get weird. And then you, of course, had people that I would argue are very unqualified for their positions that really wanted to, it's almost like they spoke with spite. This is why I said so much had to go wrong as well as right for us to get to this point. And I think with for example the election of Donald Trump, you had that phenomenon of people that were in creative positions that just had to get on social media to tell so many folks how much they felt about them, right? And I think that emboldened so many folks. And now instead of someone's opinion on a given subject matter being buried in some blog, now it's just everywhere. And so now we're beating the audience over the head, and that just increased and increased and increased. So I wouldn't say that it was a singular thing, but it was more of looking at that get more progressively, for lack of better terms, worse, and then figuring like, look, I am not going to get a better time than now. This people are. It's not just me. It's not just a random guy on the YouTube's doing videos saying that he hates everything. No, this is something that so many audience members. I mean, you could think about some folks in the space that I'm in, and I know folks hate us, like right with me, G and G, Neurotic, Ass, all these people that are in our space, Razorfish, that are in our space. That we're pretty blunt about the state of media right now. And the folks that despise us, well, of course, they point to that. Hey, these guys are man babies. They're toxic. They're the worst people in the world. But what they don't seem to look at is why do you think that those people have exploded in the last several, let's say years, let's say 2018, 2019, 20. Why do you think that explosion existed? It's because, well, they were really voicing the opinion of thousands, perhaps millions of people, and it resonated with them. And that's the part that they didn't understand. So I'm looking at it from a fiscal, like more economic perspective, as well as a creative one. And that's why we have the Riververse Code of Ethics there, because it allows the audience to hold us to a standard as well, which I think is missing in this game. We all got skin in it. We want this thing to thrive, but we understand that the customers make this thing go around. So looking at people or companies that I have known and loved over the years go in the direction that they went in, and really coming to terms with the fact that it's not going to get better, and I need to be part of the solution. You mentioned, you rattled off all those things at the beginning of the show here, or I was in this and that. I think God is telling me, hey, Eric, you see your most success when you're doing what? Creating. You saw what you did with Fire. You saw what you did with Backwards. You see what you're doing. We're here, and you create the Riververse. Go create. And all those things that I just named, those have been my most successful ventures. That's not to say that I haven't seen success in other avenues. Definitely, as a commentator, I have. But there's nothing to the degree of what we're doing with what I did with Backwards, what we're doing with Backwards, with us having just recorded a bunch of stuff, as well as what we're doing with the Riververse. So that's what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm taking a step back from the commentary stuff and focusing on being a part of the solution, because that's what I should be doing.
Eric, since I know that you're a Mises guy, you can even see Read Mises back there on the wall for people that hadn't already seen it. There it is. I think a question that some friends and I have batted around a lot, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this, is you see some of these projects. You talked about how there's not just an effort to remake; it's a replace.
Oh,
They
yeah.
want to take the things that people loved and get rid of them, which is a different. That's a different level of malicious. We'll put it that way. But from an economic standpoint, you see a lot of these projects. You see like new seasons of things on Netflix that take drastic turns from source materials. The ratings bomb. You see a lot of movies, definitely like comic book movies, Marvel movies, DC movies, especially more recent ones, kind of like since that whole Infinity Gauntlet little era. They're just churn. It's just corporate churn, right? And we lost 100 million here, we lost 100 million there. And I think the question that a lot of people are left with, especially like us free market guys, is we tend to come from a school of thought that is, well, if I'm a business and I make a product and the customers reject that product, then either I'm going to go away or I've got to think long and hard about what I'm doing, because that profit and loss is what's dictating which way things are going to go. But you see a lot of these legacy media companies, you think like the Disneys of the world, and they've had some clunker projects in the last few years, is put it lightly. And yet the creative people that are responsible for those things continue to be employed and continue to put out more bad projects. So what is your thoughts on that? How what is your explanation for how some of these companies can continue time after time after time to make the kind of creative decisions they're making? Whereas like if you or me were to decide, well, we're just going to, I'm just throwing an example out there. Well, we're just going to shit on Luke Skywalker and start over, and we lost $100 million. You and me go out of business.
100%.
And yet they don't. What's your explanation for that?
Well, I think, yeah, you can make the argument that a lot of them internally are ideologically obsessed. I mean, I think definitely with Disney, if you remember that Reimagined Tomorrow or whatever it was, that little in-group corporate meeting that got leaked, that they had, and all the stuff that they were rattling off, they seem to not at all care about if this product made money going into the future. So when you have that in your leadership, top to bottom, yeah, you're gonna have the issues that it is they have. I think their stock right now is like the lowest that it's been in like 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. Over that, perhaps they're not doing very well. But to your point, they have committed to doubling down. Now, again, that's part of the ideologically obsessed. But the reason they're not just flat out going away is because, well, they have a lot of money, and let's say that. And I will even say this though, with Disney, they're changing because their attitude isn't the exact same. They recognize they're in a economically poor situation, at least compared to themselves in years past. So whether it be with talking about getting rid of certain assets, selling off assets, having this more like with ESPN, being more joint effort because they're losing money by the billions in some cases, and it just can't. It's not sustainable. Now it's more sustainable for them to do that versus you or I, because to your point, if I drop a dud like that after investing that much money, I'm gone. That's it. You and I, we're finished, and most businesses are. But something that's a mega corporation like that is insane because they can kind of weather the storm, but only up to a certain degree. Because, like I just mentioned, they've been changing in some aspects there. So it's funny how fast I would argue that stuff happens, which is why the words of this man behind me, it really, they stand tall because and they really stand the test of time, because despite all of that, we were once talking about acting as if Disney was going to take over the entire damn world, where they were buying up properties and assets like they were going out of style. That was not that long ago. South Park doing episodes, all that. That was not that long ago. And now we're talking about them as if we don't, they're not in any position to be buying assets. In fact, they're going to be selling assets. So though it does take longer, with the spread of information, I think it is speeding up their demise. But the opening, and this is the let's say white pill of it all, the opening that it has allowed for people, because now more than ever, just normie customers are starting to look at things differently, and they're understanding that something's fundamentally wrong, right? And that's you're getting the eyes of people that it was very hard and very difficult to get them to look away before. Now they're more incentivized to, because those products have been crap for years now. So you know you'd be foolish if you're creative, making something that the guys that have made up a lot of market share, they've made it clear that they're not going to stop. Well, you might want to slide in and start offering an alternative, because like I said, you might not get another time, and at least in your lifetime, like we have right now.
Well, on that note, we're gonna move on to talking a little bit about the haters now. Uh, Trigger warning to the people watching at home tonight. I already ran this by Eric, so his jaw's not going to hit the floor or nothing. Not that he would just make my jaw hit the floor if he didn't like it that much. Now, Eric, I follow you on social media, and I followed you on social media before the Ripaverse days. And the fact of the matter is there's a lot of people out there that make value judgments based on identity politics. I'm not like that. I'm pretty sure you're not like that. But there are a lot of people who are like that.
Yeah.
And something I try to do, even though maybe I'm naive to do this, is I try to, at least for 5 seconds, put myself in the shoes of other people to say, I'm not saying I agree with them, but why do they think the way they think? Or what would they think about this? What would they think about that? And I mean, you've got a successful black man who's an entrepreneur who makes his own creative material, who is not beholden to any particular special interest. That checks a lot of those boxes. And yet, I see every single day, I can click on a tweet of yours, and there's people in the responses calling you a coon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Eric, I know you spent time in Memphis. You're from the same general part of the country I am. From where I'm from, if you just walked out on the street and said, hey, this guy's a coon, you're about to have a violent situation. And yet these people call you that every day.
Yeah.
And so kind of, I'll get a two-parter that I'll let you respond to is, one, what is this phenomenon? Why do these people hate you specifically so much that they would resort to language that you and I both know they would never walk out of their house and say to nobody to their face? And two, why is it every single time I see who did it, it's always a white liberal?
Well, oh man, such a fantastic question. And to your point, yeah, these guys are, and that's how it's easier for me to deal with. They keep that stuff contained to like the Twitter versus I just went to San Diego Comic-Con, no problems, no issues. And I go out all these places, I never have any problems. People calling me like foul stuff. But Yeah, it is almost, I mean, exclusively just white leftists that are calling me out of my name as such because they have this they think that I'm supposed to be acting a certain way. And it's not just with me and my views on particular subject matters. It's also with the people that are fans of my work or supporters or customers of us. And they don't like that we exist. They don't like that we have fun. We're not having to go through them, and that just makes them more and more angry. And it's funny that success has a way of amplifying these guys and their dipshittery. It's because definitely when you're in a position like us and we keep seeing success, it has a way of making them more angry, right? Because it's like, hey, my efforts to try to derail everything it is that this man has isn't working, and that's why you see that they lash out the way that they do, and it just keeps going because they themselves are just little angry people, and we can't stop winning. That's really what it boils down to. But yeah, it's intriguing, man, seeing these guys say the things that they say to me that, to your point, they never walk out of the house saying, and even the ones that say, "Oh yeah, I would." No, that you wouldn't. None of you guys ever would ever would do that. It's just you feel emboldened to do it because, well, that's kind of how the internet is. It incentivizes people to be people that they aren't and say things that they otherwise would not say. And it's like, all for what? The funniest thing, I mean, you've known me for a while, man. And, despite my hot takes politically, social, cultural issues, the thing that I've got the most pushback at, the ugliest thing said about me, was probably the most apolitical thing that I've ever done, and that's to start my own comic book company. Right? That's the
Wow.
most, like, you've read the Code of Ethics. We just want to make good material. It's the most apolitical thing that I have done, and it has gotten the most gotten. I mean, you would think that I was. I mean, all the hot takes that I had politically didn't get anything near to this level, and that's always been something interesting to watch.
I mean, it's just crazy. The whole phenomenon is weird to me because you kind of have some intersecting kind of interests that the same kinds of people who would say out of one side of their mouth, well, those greedy corporations, they don't pay their fair share of taxes and they're destroying America. But then those same people are simping for Disney and want you to fail. That just doesn't compute to me. I don't know. It's super confusing.
No, it doesn't make any sense, and it shows that they don't actually believe anything it is that they say. Because yeah, I mean, you let them rattle it off, especially again doing the sum of love and all these things. Everybody's pro black, fist in the air, do all this, and I here you have a guy that goes and does his own thing independently at that, and you're saying the most ugliest things you could possibly think of about him because that's not anything it is that they believe. That's not a position that they actually hold. It's more of it's politically and socially expedient for them at the time. And if you have a position like I do on various other topics, then that stuff goes completely out of the window, and it goes out the window fairly early, right? Like the minute they find out that they're all pro black, fists in the air, until they find that you're not some raging leftist. And then at that point, all that stuff goes out the air and you're the ugliest man. And they find you to be like basically a threat to whatever narrative it is that they're trying to conjure or manifest with the help of other people. But yeah, no, these are losers at the end of the day. That's the way that I see it. And they're not impactful. And I think the growth of the Rippaverse kind of shows that despite all these ugly things it is that they are saying about me, it hasn't stopped us from succeeding.
Well, on that note, Eric, we're running short on time, but I've got a short little list of questions from our community group. Are you up for doing a little lightning round with me?
Let's do it.
All right. So the first one is because we've talked a lot about projects, things kind of from the legacy media that we're like, oh, that's garbage. I'm done with this. I'm done with this IP, whatever. I don't want to watch anymore. What about the opposite? Is there a movie series, a TV series, comic, whatever that you've seen or read recently that you think, okay, that was good. We need more of that.
Oh man, that's coming from the mainstream.
Yeah, mainstream.
Oh man, not really. I'm gonna be completely honest, and I think that's not to say that there isn't something decent that may be out there. I want to be clear about that. It's more that like I'm just not even being. I'm not there as a customer anymore, and I'm not giving it the time of day. I would probably say that it would be more in the video. I had to ponder on it, like probably something that I played recently on stream as a video game that maybe produced by a AAA company. That would probably be the closest thing that I get. There's nothing very recently, but man, even off the top of my head, over the last few years, it's gonna be it's very tough for me to be like, oh, that's all right. Independent, yeah, there's plenty of those out there that I'm like, oh yeah, we need more of that. So mainstream, I mean, I think now at this point, it's just people are just tolerating a lot of it. Even the stuff that's halfway decent would have been decent 8 years ago, probably not.
I'll tell you what. Have you seen the adaptation of Castlevania on Netflix?
I have a story funny that I'm not gonna tell it here about the animation company that did that. But yes, I have heard and I've seen the animation itself on it, and most people have said nothing but good things about it. I haven't watched any of the episodes, but I have seen a lot of clips and stuff of the animation, and it looks phenomenal. And they're based, I think, out of here in Texas. Powerhouse did that.
Okay, we'll talk about that when we're done.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right,
yeah.
all right. The next one is D3 wants to know. Ask him if he likes chocolate milk. Do you like chocolate milk?
No, I don't. I don't like chocolate at all. Believe it or not.
Oh,
I know. I know.
damn. All right. Our friend Logan says, "Who is a band or artist that you think needs more love?"
Oh, band. I mean, everybody that I probably name gets enough love, but they can always use more of it. And that's my man Phil Labonte from All That Remains, obviously floating around the genre that we float around. Those guys have been killing it for a very, very long time. And Phil, the reason I have so much respect for him, a good friend of mine, is despite us being kind of in this middlecore scene and understanding that you're looking at a bunch of freaking communists oftentimes because they think that you're not supposed to be performing their music or something of that nature. He has not folded. He's not withered. He's not been silent about where his like more libertarian views are. And I respect that brother so much. So give props to Phil and All That Remains. It's not an easy thing to do.
All right, a couple more. Next one is from our buddy Tim. Eric has got a lot of detractors, gotten a lot of criticism, undeserved. Is there a particular point of criticism that you've received that you genuinely felt was fair, and it actually made you go to the drawing board and think about how you're doing things?
No, no, not from detractors. No, the reason being is I would never give a detractor the time of day to even listen to them because they're retarded. And for me, I think that if you surround if you surround yourself with good people that want the best for you, all that stuff's gonna happen internally, and you're gonna have people that are gonna make you're gonna produce the best product it is that you can possibly produce. But I've always thought that that was a weird question that people ask because we don't ask that of really anybody else. It's more so I think a lot of people are upset that I'll just flat out reject the criticism of a person that I know and is a bad actor. But I surround myself. I have people that are within this company that aren't yes men, and I wouldn't have them in positions that if they weren't. Whether it be Andrew, who's our creative manager, if he says, "Hey, this doesn't make sense, don't do it," okay, I'm like, all right, well, let me see your perspective on that, and he'll tell me, and if it makes sense to me, I will pivot on that. Having guys like Eric Weathers as our pre-press, having the great Chuck Dixon, learned so much. I just mentioned him earlier. Around, I've learned so much. The Saskas about writing and the approach. And we're talking. It's funny. We're talking about something. I was talking about something today with Chuck, and I had this. Hey, we should go this direction. And Chuck, just flat out said, "Well, that doesn't make sense, and this is why." Right? Maybe I'll tell that story later. I've told stories about me and Alpha Core and how I introduced Alpha Core and how I kind of pivot on, not pivot, but not to say that I would change anything about it, but there are other ways that this could have been done perhaps more effectively. But there's a story that he's writing, and there was something that I had already set up, and he explained to me, hey, about this particular, I can't make sense of that, so I don't know about doing it, and he explains why. Obviously, it's all in good faith, and therefore that's not something it is that we do. And I think that you got to have people around you like that. And believe it or not, I have several people within this company that I wouldn't have. I don't have yes men here. My operations manager, Brandon, people have interacted with him on social media. He was a groomsman in my wedding, and I don't have him in that position to sit there and listen to me. I have him in a position to make difficult calls, and despite what it is that I personally feel about it.
All right, we're gonna move on to the bonus round. This is the $1,000,000 question, Eric. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right. If you have two lasagnas
Mm-hmm.
and you stack one lasagna on top of the other, is it still two lasagnas or now just a lasagna?
It's just a lasagna. Just a lasagna.
That is correct. It is. It is just a lasagna. Take that, Tom Woods, Mister. I can't answer any question to save my life. Eric July is 1-0 on It's Too Late. Eric, really quick, tell everybody where they can go to support you and check out the Rippaverse.
Absolutely. Rippaverse.com. We are constantly updating this bad boy. You can go to Rippaverse.com. You can get it caught up on news, what it is that we have going on, latest books. You can go to the store, buy books that have already been released past the campaign, like ISOM 1 and ISOM 2. So go to Rippaverse.com. We're Rippaverse on all forms of social media. You can find us and chat with us. We love that feedback. We love to hear from our actual customers and what it is that you want more of, less of, all that good stuff. So again, brother, I appreciate you having me here, giving me this opportunity to plug everything, but it's always fun to catch up with you.
All right. On that note, Eric, I only have one personal request for you, and it's not to join my Patreon, and it's not even to hire a late night talk show host for your Rippaverse. I need you to write me into the universe as a villain.
As a villain.
Protagonists are boring. You know that the story lives and dies on a good villain.
True. That's true. I might can cook something up for you, man. I might can do that.
All right.